Talent alone isn't enough. You can have every tool, every skill, every highlight reel move, but if you can't put it all together when it counts, it doesn't matter. Being drafted in the first round of the NHL is a dream. It's recognition, the kind of moment young players live for. But it also comes with a weight most can't even imagine. Whether you hear your name first overall or at the very end of the round, the expectation is clear. But nothing comes easy. Every prospect has to fight to earn their place and prove they belong. There are no free passes, no shortcuts. In recent years, the league has seen its share of elite talent struggle to make that leap. And one name that always pops into my head, one that still makes me wonder how it all unraveled, is Josh Ho-Sang. When the New York Islanders picked him 28th overall in 2014, his hands were magical, his skill and vision undeniable. But the other side of the game, the defensive work, the consistent effort, was a question mark from day one. Even at the earliest stages of his career, whispers lingered. Was he really giving it everything he had, or just enough to wow on the highlight reel? Well, during his draft year, Ho-Sang was easily one of the CHL's top prospects. He racked up 32 goals and 85 points in 65 games with Windsor, and his stick handling, skating, and offensive vision rivaled players taken ahead of him. Yet, despite the talent, he slid to the later end of the first round for a mix of reasons. Concerns were rooted in his inconsistency from shift to shift, and the way his emotions could take over when things didn't go his way. To some, these were just growing pains for a young mercurial talent. To others, they were enough reason to steer clear of Ho-Sang entirely. Ho-Sang didn't exactly help his case in draft interviews either. Confidence didn't even begin to cover it. In one sit-down, he boldly claimed that if he were a GM with the first overall pick, he'd select himself. And in 3 years, he'd be the best player in the draft. He went even further, insisting that most of the players ranked ahead of him weren't even close to his skill level. And then there was his pride and his volatility. While most players were trained to bottle up their emotions, Ho-Sang wore his on his sleeve, insisting that his outbursts and reactions weren't a weakness. They were a problem for the hockey world itself. Unsurprisingly, much of Ho-Sang's confidence came across as outright cockiness to a lot of NHL scouts and GMs. So much so that only 18 of the 30 NHL teams even granted him an interview, and many left wishing they hadn't. His meeting with the Leafs reportedly didn't go well at all. It ended less like an interview and more like a verbal showdown, with Leafs director of player development Jim Hughes telling Ho-Sang bluntly that the hockey world wouldn't bend to him, he would have to bend to it. One GM even said his scouting staff would revolt if they ever drafted him, and multiple teams quietly added him to their do not draft list. When the Islanders finally took the leap, GM Garth Snow explained the pick by leaning into Ho-Sang's personality rather than shying away from it. Confidence and an outspoken nature, Snow saw it as a fit. When asked about concerns of him meshing with the team, Snow shrugged it off. He'll fit in fine. Everyone shits on me too, he said. Being a first-round pick meant Ho-Sang got his shot at the Islanders' preseason camp a few months later. A chance to prove he was the best player in the draft like he claimed. But despite signing his entry-level contract on October 5th, 2014, he couldn't crack the Islanders' opening day roster. Instead, he was sent back to juniors for the 2015 season. Ho-Sang came out of the gate on fire, putting up 19 points in his first 11 games with Windsor before being traded to the Niagara Ice Dogs. From there, he excelled, finishing the season with 62 points in 49 games, totaling 17 goals and 81 points over 60 games for the year. It was a strong season and a reminder of just how much talent he carried. Heading into the 2016 season, Ho-Sang was more determined than ever to stick with the Islanders. And that determination lasted about as long as Carter Hart does. He overslept and showed up late to his first day of training camp, and Garth Snow wasn't having it. After already taking heat for the Ho-Sang pick, now he was looking foolish. And just hours later, Ho-Sang was on a plane back to Niagara. In juniors, Ho-Sang did exactly what he had always done best. Dazzled with the puck. He produced at over a point per game pace, reminding everyone why his talent was undeniable. The narrative, though, remained the same. The skill was there, but the drive to apply it to the defensive side still wasn't. He finished the regular season with 82 points in 66 games, and followed it up with a scorching playoff run, recording 26 points in 17 games to help the Ice Dogs reach the OHL Finals before falling to the London Knights. Now an overager, Ho-Sang couldn't be sent back to juniors. This was his first real shot at the professional level. AHL or NHL, it was still up in the air. He showed up on time this time, stuck around longer than a single day, but that still wasn't enough to crack the Islanders roster. 3 years after boldly claiming he'd be the best player in the draft, he hadn't played a single NHL game. Out of training camp, he was sent down to the AHL to begin his pro career with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. But Ho-Sang wasn't about to stay in Bridgeport the whole season. After a hot start, it looked like he had what it took to become a legitimate pro. By mid-season, he had 10 goals and 26 assists in 48 AHL games. Impressive numbers for a first-year professional. That's when New York decided it was finally time to give him a real shot. At just 21 years old, Ho-Sang was about to make his NHL debut. On March 1st, 2017, the Islanders called him up, and from the moment he stepped on the ice, the hockey world took notice, and it would be for more than just his play. As you've probably noticed through all the clips and highlights I've shown you of Ho-Sang in juniors, he wore the iconic number 66. In juniors, it was already a conversation starter, but in the NHL, the reaction was explosive. Social media lit up with criticism. Ho-Sang became only the second player to wear 66 in the NHL since Mario Lemieux retired, the first being TJ Brody in 2011, who quickly switched to 7. The number has been unofficially retired, and most of the league treated it as an unwritten rule not to touch it. Ho-Sang said he wore the number 66 as a tribute to Lemieux. He also made it clear he would change the number if it became a distraction for his team. Ho-Sang understood why Penguins fans might take issue with it. However, he felt the rest of the league just needed to move on because their teams had no affiliation with the number. Even Lemieux weighed in, and in a classy fashion, he just shrugged it off. He pointed out how other iconic numbers like 9 and 4 have been worn by dozens of players after legends like Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr. To Lemieux, Ho-Sang's choice was no big deal, but for the hockey world, the conversation was just getting started. Despite all the noise surrounding his number, Ho-Sang stuck with 66 and took to the ice looking to carve out a permanent spot with the Islanders. He started off strong, putting up 7 points in his first 11 games, but the momentum didn't last. He cooled off quickly, recording just 3 points over the next 10 games. By the end of his call-up, Ho-Sang had 10 points in 21 games, a solid first taste of the NHL, but far from a breakout. With that first pro season behind him, many expected Ho-Sang to build on his early promise. Armed with lessons learned in 2017, he finally made the Islanders' opening night roster for the 2018 season, but things didn't go as planned. In late October, despite putting up 4 assists in 6 games, he was sent back to the AHL. 2 weeks later, he returned to New York, only to be sent down again in mid-December after scoring 8 points in 15 games. By the end of the year, Ho-Sang finished with 12 points in 22 games for the Islanders, but nothing ever fully clicked. The remainder of that season was spent in Bridgeport, where he put up 31 points in 50 AHL games, another reminder of the talent he carried and the consistency he had yet to find at the NHL level. Ho-Sang seemed on the edge of breaking through as an NHL regular, or at least that's how it looked on paper. His game, however, was still a work in progress, not polished enough to earn a full-time spot. Like every other player, he still had to prove he belonged. The Islanders had hope his top-line minutes in the AHL would help him round out his game, turning him into more than just a dynamic offensive weapon. By 2019, 5 years after being drafted, Ho-Sang was stuck in a frustrating cycle. The progress he had shown earlier had stalled. He failed to make the Islanders out of training camp and was asked to switch his jersey number by new GM Lou Lamoriello, who had a strict rule against numbers above 35. Ho-Sang complied by taking number 26 and promptly lit up the AHL. In his first 26 games with Bridgeport, he notched 26 points, making it increasingly difficult for the Islanders to ignore a player with that kind of talent. On December 9th, 2018, Ho-Sang was recalled to the Islanders, but the timing couldn't have been worse. He cooled off immediately, recording just 2 points in his next 10 games before being sent back down. He received another call-up in February, but it would ultimately be his last. To make matters worse, he didn't even get on the ice. Healthy scratched before being returned to Bridgeport for good. He finished the season strong in the minors, but it was clear he still hadn't reached the level he or the Islanders had hoped for. When his entry-level contract expired after the 2019 season, New York still saw potential. That offseason, Ho-Sang signed a one-year deal to remain with the organization, another chance to prove he belonged in the NHL. The NHL moves fast, and by now, Ho-Sang was 24, running out of time. Once again, he joined the Islanders for training camp, only to start the season in the AHL. This time, there would be no call-up. 3 days after being sent down, Islanders GM Lou Lamoriello announced that Ho-Sang had requested a trade. To make the process smoother, Ho-Sang was told to stay off the ice, not report to the Sound Tigers, and stay healthy, putting the team in the best position to make a move. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and still no trade. On December 17th, 2019, Ho-Sang finally returned to Bridgeport, with it clear from Lou Lamoriello that he would remain there for the rest of the season. Ho-Sang agreed, and shortly after, the Islanders made a surprising move. They loaned him to the San Antonio Rampage, the St. Louis Blues AHL affiliate, on February 28, 2020, and that's where he would spend the rest of the season. After his one-year deal expired, the Islanders were still willing to give him another chance. With options limited, Ho-Sang signed another one-year deal on October 27, 2020. Despite signing his new one-year deal in late October, the 2021 NHL season wouldn't begin for another 3 months, delayed by the complications of the pandemic. When training camps finally started on December 30th, 2020, it was revealed that Ho-Sang had not been invited to the Islanders camp. Instead, the plan was for him to report to Bridgeport later that month. After 6 consecutive years of attending New York's preseason camp, Ho-Sang had fallen so far down the depth chart, he was no longer even given a chance to prove the doubters wrong. But rather than sit back, he decided to take control of his own season. On January 16th, 2021, it was announced that Ho-Sang would head to Europe, with the Islanders agreeing to loan him to Örebro HK of the Swedish Elite League for the rest of the year. A chance to start fresh and a reset for a career that had long been defined by potential unfulfilled. By 25, Ho-Sang's NHL dreams were all but over. What followed were years of bouncing around. Europe, the AHL with the Toronto Marlies, the KHL, and eventually the ECHL with the Florida Everblades, where he helped the team capture the Kelly Cup. Ho-Sang last played in 2025, just 29 years old, and at this point, it seems that he may have a better shot at going platinum with his rap career than becoming the best player in the 2014 draft. And I'm serious, go check out his rap music. He dropped an album that isn't even half bad. Go support him for real. So why didn't it work out for Josh Ho-Sang? How could a player with all the talent in the world never quite put it together? Some point to his attitude, others to his controversies, and some argue it was a failure to refine and improve his game after leaving juniors. The Islanders gave him chance after chance, but he never made enough of an impact on both sides of the puck to stick around beyond a few call-ups. Maybe if Ho-Sang had continued to produce closer to a point per game, like he did early on, the Islanders might have had a reason to overlook some of his shortcomings. Unfortunately, he was unable to elevate his offense or his defense, and his NHL performance became replaceable. It's a shame, really. Like, just look at some of these highlights. I remember when I was deep into the OHL and junior hockey, Ho-Sang was one of the most entertaining players to watch highlights of, and I couldn't wait to see him bring that same energy to the NHL. Unfortunately, he was just never really able to apply himself consistently and live up to his full potential. So, where do you think it all went wrong for Josh Ho-Sang? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you in the next one.